It's Dr. Jack Barnathan with my good friend, the design man of the hour, day, year, who's been shaking everything up, Geraldo Mercado of House of Mercato. Geraldo, good to see you today, pal.
Good to be back, Doc.
Geraldo, we were talking about, and I think this is something exciting for people to learn about your rise, truly. And when you were in, because of course, you just sit around high school. Uh, there was this little part of your life dealing with designing one of your first designs, if you will, hats. And that led to a lot of great things that I think people need to learn from. Tell me a little bit about that, Geraldo.
Junior and senior year, I was interning and I was kind of just finishing my internship with Phillips and I had to come back into class my senior year, and it became a what next scenario. And my head professor at the time, Paul Cinelli, I love that guy to death. He reminds me of Joe Pesci, but not the point. He's like, hey, there's this company coming in called Ed's West. You know anything about them? I'm like, well, they deal with a lot of collegiate caps and things because at the time the college caps were big. You know, Georgetown was hot, Duke was hot, the Tar Heels were hot. They were opening up a different division called Street Noise, and they were going up against a group at the time called Hypno, and they were going up against that division.
Right.
And it wound up being a thing where it was supposed to be just urban streetwear, and they really wanted to get the voice of the kids from the streets, what was in, what was out, and what would have been working. And I was like, sure, but they come and they just present you this idea, hey, any concept you choose, it's $1,000 a hat, and we're like, what? I mean, we're
Yeah.
17, 18 years old, $1,000 a hat. We're like, yeah, sure, sign me up. And we everybody spent some time and put some concepts together, and I put what I felt was a little bit more commercial than what I felt was more streetwear. But I submitted my concepts and I just let it run. And I go back to an internship and I'm running around. I come back a couple of weeks later. Hey, congratulations. I go, what do you mean congratulations? I haven't done anything. They're like, no, you won. And I was like, oh. And I turn and they pick one or two of my hats, and then I find out that the hats are being put into production, and next thing you know, like I'm in the hat making business. Then literally about 3 or 4 months later, they were like, "Hey, we're bringing in a bunch of designers, you know, um, to have our, to basically head this division and work on new things." And the funny part was, same thing, we designed a couple of hats. Next thing you know, it's in Source magazine. It's popping up in Rolling Stone and a couple of we were like, it's insane. Like, here's some 17, 18-year-old kid, and here's my, here's I've got hats, being, printed in magazines with my name next to it and the whole it was an awesome experience, what first of many. So then I just started working with Ed's West and then started designing other pieces. So altogether, I probably said I had about 5 or 6 designs that were mine that were put into production, along with the other pieces that I had helped out and assisted. And that's kind of what started
Wow.
my little venture in clothing and accessories. I mean, I was always designing shirts and always doing things. You're in high school, you're doing silk screen, but I was actually able to commercialize it and actually turn it into something. And those were like the earlier steps of me and my quote unquote fashion,
Yeah.
stint. It's just funny how we're literally talking 30 plus years later. I'm right back where I started from. I mean, I'm back to, hats and shoes and streetwear and athletic wear. And it's funny how I had to go out to come back in, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And I've heard this story from other people before where they fell in love with it or they loved it but weren't in love with it. Then, they expressed other avenues. The one blessing I can honestly say is I have been involved in art, in design, in fashion, in apparel my whole life in one way, stream, or form, whether it be for another company or when I went into print, and then from print we needed to do accessories. Even when I went into TV, from for the shows that we were working on, we were always designing different types of apparel. I had presented separate concepts to the show leads. There's only two watches for Brian Williams for the 11th hour. He has one and I have the other one. So there were a bunch
Wow.
of like one of ones and a lot of pieces that we had presented, and accessories and just things like that. And it just kind of brought me back full circle, which was a very interesting, thing where I'm back home, which is the only way to describe it, and
Yeah.
I'm where I'm comfortable, and I'm in sports, I'm in fitness, I'm in design. I get to just, do things for really cool athletes, and I get to have my own style about how I want to present it.
It's it's wild. That Geraldo, when you first saw when they said we're gonna, make your design, when you first saw that was probably one of the first times, if not the first time, seeing your work like and feeling it and touching it. How did that feel? How did that hit?
A little surreal. The funny thing is my firsts of everything were always awesome experiences. Like I literally still have the prototypes of the hat that was made. I have
Wow,
it in a box, in a bin, in a
that's
in a
cool.
vacuum packed bag. And the deal was, if your hat was made, it was $1,000 and you got a dozen of your hats that you were able to like give out to family, friends, and
Yeah.
whatever else. I had people want me to sign hats, which I thought was it like I got one with a Sharpie on it with my signature on it. But yeah, I had designed a bunch of these pieces and a lot of these assets. It's a little surreal at that time when you're 17, 18, and you're watching it happen, to see it go from concept, to paper, to actually being selected, to then seeing the processes that it takes for them to actually make the hat, the embroidery, the embroidery file and how's it going
Yeah.
to out, and then the actual stitching, and when they stitch it, and then the hat is made, and then they give you one, and you're kind of like, holy, like this is real. It was a really cool experience. And then I saw like hundreds of these hats being made all at once, and I was kind of like, wow, they're actually going to sell it. And then you go to a store, and then they actually see being sold in stores, and you're kind of like, wow, this is really cool. And I I did not have that same feeling until, I want to say, about my first episode, when I saw my graphics air on NBC the very first time, and I was kind of like, okay, cool, my stuff is being seen on a national level, like that's insane. And then
Crazy.
the OCRWC, where I had Team USA wearing my entire kit, and you're literally seeing 100 athletes wearing your hoodies, your shorts, your jerseys, your sweaters, your jogging pants. Like, to see 100 plus athletes wearing your gear, all in line, all in a row, representing, there was, that was like a real cool feeling too. But yeah, those two were like the ones on a professional level that I always felt like always stuck out. But again, it's like what we're talking about, starting with hats 17 years ago, 30 plus years ago at the age of 17, 18. And, here I am, 30 years later, literally back where I'm at, and I'm just seeing everything that's come to fruition with it.
It's so exciting, Geraldo, and it's so motivating, not just younger people, but everyone who's got that idea, that dream. And that's so much of, to me, and to so many, I think that's a lot of the organic draw for House of Mercato, because that's you're behind it, but it's all of this. And it's wonderful that we get to share this aspect and more. We're going to continue. Thank you, Geraldo. This was awesome today.
Till the next one, Doc.